What's up, guys? Welcome back to MOV+. Hope you've had an awesome day. Looking at that warm-up, we're gonna go 1 minute of cardio of your choice. Now, we're gonna go with a plate ground overhead. Important note with this one, if you're gonna do the same as us, guys, go light. We do want this to be cardio-based, so don't pick anything excessively heavy. Once you finish that minute on that one, we're gonna go into the next 4 minutes where the format is gonna be 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off jumping jacks, and then alternating rounds with 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off on up downs. And they'll just go back and forth 4 sets of each, and that'll make up the remaining 4 minutes there. Good to go? Yeah. All right, starting in 10, so 1 minute of cardio of your choice. You guys can pick whatever you want here. Be creative if you want to, or you can follow along with us, do the same plate ground overhead, and go for it. So I really like this one as a warm-up, guys. I mentioned before, it's very important to go light with it. You don't want to go with a crazy big heavy plate or anything like that, or a heavy barbell. This is gonna be a nice one because it's gonna get legs, it's gonna get trunk, it's gonna get arms, it's gonna get a grip, all those things in the one shot. And it's gonna get us to get those hips nice and open as well. So this is a nice one just to kind of start off slow, go light, allow that body to get in that nice, fully pressed out position. So everything's nice and up and open. And we'll work through this for the first 60 seconds, and then we move to that 4 minute block where it's alternating 20-second blocks of jumping jacks and up downs. So 20 more seconds. So you see with this, Em is bringing her head through at the top there, so very important with any kind of overhead movement that we establish a good lockout. We're not leaving that head back behind. All right, 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So we're on jumping jacks for 20 seconds, then we'll take a 10-second rest, and then it's up downs for 20 seconds, followed by another 10-second rest. So just got the feet going from a close position, so almost touching in the middle, to outside of shoulder width on the jump. Hands go from thighs to overhead. And resting, so 10 seconds here, we're gonna move to up downs. So this is going down to a push-up position and then standing back up again. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So looking for full body extension in both positions here. So at the top, shoulders are stacked on top of hips, on top of knees, on top of feet. And in the bottom there, we should be able to see the same kind of straight line body position. So it's a full push-up position at the bottom there. And resting, so another 10-second rest. And we'll go through 3 more cycles of this to make up the remaining 3 minutes of the warm-up. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So an interesting thing to do with this one, guys, with the jumping jacks is to listen to your feet on the ground. That should be fairly quiet. If they're loud and clunky, that generally means your heels are kind of hitting the ground. We're being a bit sort of slow and clunky on those feet. So try to be nice and light and bouncy. And resting. Okay, 3, 2, 1, and going to up downs. Now, if you happen to struggle with this particular movement from a mobility point of view, guys, feel free to elevate the front end. What we could do is put a box, or if you've got a edge of your couch or something underneath the hands there, you can actually go an elevated front end, do the exact same movement. It's just going to be that little bit easier. And resting. So 2 more rounds. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So this one's a nice, fast cadence. You want to get that heart rate elevated, get those lungs opened up. It's just nice to get that sort of lateral movement going on as well. A lot of the movements we do will be in that kind of sagittal plane where we're moving sort of forwards, backwards, up, down. It's nice to get, and resting, nice to get a little bit of sideways movements as well. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So if you have trouble with hitting the same position at the bottom each time, guys, use a marker. Just set a couple of couch cushions on the ground either side. That will give you a spot to kind of jump your feet back to, and that way you know you're hitting that nice long position at the end each time. And resting, so 1 more minute to go through this one. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So by now, hopefully the body's nice and warmed up. You may have sort of increased intensity as you've gone along as well, as the body feels like it's getting ready for the harder stuff. And resting. Last sort of up downs to finish it off. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So this movement is very similar to burpees, guys. So the difference being obviously we're trying to hit the brakes when the feet hit the ground rather than kind of rolling through or sort of rolling down to that flat position. So important to hit the brakes hard with the arms, have nice active shoulders, and don't be tempted to kind of soften and fall through that. And resting. All right, guys, so that's the warm-up done. Have a little bit of recovery time, and then we're gonna check out the build workout next. Okay, so we're gonna check out the build workout now, guys. This one has a 12-minute time frame. We have 4 sets to get through, so that means we roughly need to sit on about a 3-minute rotation. 2 movements we're gonna do, they are single-sided movements, so we'll be doing reps on both right and left. What we're gonna see first is a single arm bent over row, which looks like this. Okay, obviously do that both on right and left, and then we go into a single arm Arnold press, which is gonna go from there to there. So those are our 2 movements. As I said, you'll go a set of 8 on the right, 8 on the left on that first movement, and then 8 on the right, 8 on the left on the second movement. You hopefully will get this done with a little bit of rest time between rounds. As I mentioned earlier, we want to get roughly about a 3-minute rotation to fit it into that 12-minute time cap. Good to go? All right, so starting in 10, going with that single arm bent over row first, 8 reps each side. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So what Emily's doing with her setup here is she's creating a nice stable position by going to a split stance. So she's got her right leg forward and the dumbbells on the left arm. So that means the left leg is going to kind of get back out of the way, get her into this nice bent over position where her torso is almost like approaching completely parallel with the ground. So she's getting into a nice deep pull position. That way she can get a really nice big stretch on her lat, and that's that main driver of the movement. So aim to have the dumbbell below knee height at the bottom of the pull, so you're stretching into it. And then at the top, we want to get the elbow past the line of the body. Now from here, we go into that single arm Arnold press. So we basically start sort of in front of the sort of shoulder collarbone area, like we're finishing off the top of a bicep curl, so the palm is facing in. And then as she presses up, she's going to kind of corkscrew the dumbbell around. So you're going to find that the rear of your shoulder is going to get some involvement because we're getting that kind of swing motion as we rotate and come up. So the rest of the body stays completely still. It is a strict movement, so there's no kind of dipping and driving. It's not a push press or a push jerk. So you're going to stay tight through the abs and through the hips and the legs, and then make the arm do all the work. So at the top there, you want to see that bicep kind of line up just near the ear or possibly even just behind it. And then just doing the same kind of the reverse corkscrew motion back down again, almost as if you're kind of pulling it down to the shoulder. All right, so we'll be resting through to about the 3-minute marker now, so you can have a bit of recovery time. If you're still going, that's totally fine. Maybe you can slow things down if the dumbbells or kettlebells that you have feel a little bit light, spend more time under tension, work with that tempo. So 30 seconds till we hit this next set. Hopefully you've finished that previous one. We've got 3 more rounds to get through. Okay, 10 seconds, so we'll start getting ourselves ready for this next one. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. Now with both of these movements, they are nice, controlled, strict movements, so you should never find there's really any momentum gathering with this. It's a smooth feeling of almost like sort of 2 seconds up, 2 seconds down. And if you want to expand on the tempo, like do a little pause at either end, that's cool too. That's only going to make the muscles work that little bit harder. When you're in this bent over row position, it's very important that the back stays straight. So very similar to when we do, say, a deadlift or a squat or a clean, we don't want any change of spinal position. It should just be a nice neutral spine that's been hinged from the hips. So we're sort of almost at that point where we're facing the ground. If you find that you get out of that, maybe that fatigue gets too great and you start to round off, just pop up for a second, straighten it back out, and then rehinge back down in the right position. Now with this pressing motion, if you find that the fatigue is starting to build quite a bit and you're struggling to get that strict press, you might find that the body's going to start to tilt back and the hips are going to shift forward, and that's usually a dead giveaway that your core and your trunk here is sort of giving up a little bit, so you've got to work a little bit harder to tighten that up and make sure that you can hold that nice straight body position. So I always like to imagine that from the ribs down, I'm like in concrete and I can't move anywhere there. And that's going to give me a stable base to push off. Nice work, and that looks good. All right, so again, resting, we've got sort of just over a minute or so to rest, so having a little bit of recovery time. Feel free to stretch on these breaks, try and open things back up again. Good one would be a lat stretch. If you can hang on to sort of a door frame and just kind of stretch that out. Shoulder circles are good. Em's doing some arm swings there. If you feel that lactic acid kind of build up, it's always good to try and loosen things up and get that flowing through a little bit more so that you get into the next set feeling a bit more fresh. Okay, 10 seconds, we'll hit this third set. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. Now, if you happen to find this bent over position a bit uncomfortable, maybe you feel like it's kind of loading the back up a little bit, or you feel like you're a little bit sort of struggling for balance in that split stance, what you can do, Em could pick her right hand and just rest it on a wall or a door frame or a chair or the edge of a couch, anything like that that's going to hold steady, and she can just kind of balance herself on that a little bit and create another point of support. And that way she can focus a little bit more just on that pulling motion, so you can see she's bringing that elbow right back past the line of the body, so it's almost like sort of drawing a bow and arrow. We want to make sure that the whole shoulder girdle is going to draw back, so that upper portion of the rear shoulder really gets working hard. When you're doing these presses, and really in general any kind of presses with a dumbbell or barbell or kettlebell, you want to think about wrist position as well, right? So thinking about the thick pad at the bottom of your palm, that's where most of the weight should be loaded. If you feel like that dumbbell is kind of sitting more back towards the fingers or the knuckles there, it's offline from the line of the arm, try and squeeze into a fist a little bit more. We can see at the top there, Em's got a nice kind of stacked position. It's an active grip. It's not just kind of hanging by all the tissue there and compacting that wrist. She's being active and squeezing that dumbbell as she moves through it. All right, nice one. So that's 3 sets down. We've got 1 to go. So next one will be at the 9-minute marker. Okay, 20 seconds before we hit that fourth and final set. Three, two, one, and go for it. I mentioned earlier the lats being kind of the main driver of this rowing motion. You'll find that your bicep is going to be involved as well. That's more of sort of a secondary support unit. So thinking about when you row, make sure that your elbow kind of leads the movement so your forearm is always going to stay vertical. If you find yourself kind of pulling the hand towards the shoulder and that elbow kind of kicking back, which means that we're kind of over dominating with that bicep muscle. So imagine a string attached to the elbow and it's just getting pulled up behind you. And that dumbbell can just kind of stay floating underneath that rather than it trying to pull the hand close to the shoulder. All right, so moving to the Arnold press. So we start in that nice tight close in position. So imagine you're in a really narrow corridor. Dumbbell's got to wind in, so it'll be sort of shoulder to outside of the collarbone, that sort of position, palm facing in. And then as you drive up, there's going to be a little bit of kind of outward rotation, okay? The hand will actually turn internal, but the arm is going to just swing out just slightly so that that rear shoulder can get involved. All right, going to the last set of these. Remember, it's 8 each side on both of these movements. And see that even in this fourth round, she's keeping the lower body nice and still. She's not tempted to push press it or to lean back or anything like that. She's staying supported through that trunk. All right, so that was the last one. We've still got a little bit of time left on the clock, so if you're still going, that's totally fine. Soak up that time, make the tempo as slow as you can and get as much work on those shoulders as possible. We've got 1 more minute. If you are done, guys, feel free to do a little bit of mobility, have a walk around, get some water, and we'll move on once we get to that 12-minute marker. Okay, last 20 seconds on that timer. Hopefully you are wrapping up the last set of those Arnold presses. Three, two, one, and done. All right, so that is the build workout done, guys. Have a bit of a chill, get some water in, and I'm gonna finish off with a little bit of mobility. Alrighty guys, so we're gonna cool things down now with a little bit of mobility work just to finish the body off after all the hard stuff. 2 drills we're gonna go through. The first one is seated straddle. So like Emma's doing there, we're gonna run this one for a minute just to show you what we're doing. It's legs as wide as you can possibly take them. Now this is gonna vary a lot from person to person, but you just do where you're up to, splay the legs out. What's important about this is that we're trying to get our posture up tall. If you're very tight through the hips and especially the hamstrings, you're gonna feel like you wanna kind of roll your pelvis back and sit like on your tailbone and kind of collapse the posture. A good thing to do with this, guys, if you set yourself up near either a door frame or the leg of a table, something like that, something to grab onto and you can pull yourself up. We can see Em's posture is nice and extended. So like we would for say a squat or a deadlift, we're extending that spine, trying to keep that nice neutral position, okay? And we're kind of rolling that pelvis to the front. If you need to go hands on the ground behind you as well, you can do that to kind of support that position. But we're gonna hang out in that one for a minute and just stretching out the groin and the hamstrings. All right, so that is drill 1. The second drill we're gonna do is a little bit more upper body, and this is what we call a figure 8. So what's gonna happen, Em's gonna start their arms out in front, and she's just gonna run a basic figure 8 shape around her body. So we'll do this for another minute. And what we want to think about is you are trying to take your shoulder joints to the maximum range of motion that you have all the way around the body. So at the back here, you can see she's pointing both hands behind her. They sweep over the top and then go to the other side, point behind her. So really just trying to give the shoulders a good flush out, and any sort of lactic acid or any tightness that we've had from doing any pressing or burpees or whatever it is we've been doing, this is just going to help loosen them up and give them a really nice flush out. If you find yourself getting a little bit lost with this one, because this is a little bit of a coordination piece, you find yourself just doing a big circle, remember you want to start from the front, you're going to swing past one pocket, back to the middle, and then swing past your other pocket and back to the middle. And that way, just slowing it down and thinking about going past the pockets, that will help you kind of get that nice figure 8 shape. All right, so those are our 2 drills, guys. If you've got time, go through 3 or 4 rounds of it, loosen the body up. Otherwise, we will catch you next time. That has been your Move Plus workout.